Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton agenda Awani, dan hari ini saya nak jadi bahagia dan gembira kerana itu tajuk yang ingin kita bincangkan. Dan saya ada tamu yang istimewa, begitu terkenal di seluruh dunia, cukup masyhur penulisannya. Oleh itu saya ingin meminta izin berbicara dalam bahasa Inggeris. I'd like now to speak in English because I would like to welcome Andrew Matthews, a very, very famous author. Millions of books that he has sold across the world, and one of them is this. And it's not just how life works. When I look at this, how life works to make you what you want to be and make you be at peace with what you want to achieve. So before I go further into that, I was just telling Andrew how this nation need a pick-me-up. This nation right now have gone through recently a lot of things that looks like big setbacks for us. But as always, when humankind are pushed to the precipice, that you see great people coming up and leading the pack, and we can lead ourselves out of this. So we are glad that we have friends like Andrew coming over from so far away just to share with us and tell us maybe not just something that sounds like nuclear physics, but maybe simple things in life that we have gone across but didn't really notice. So maybe I'll just let it fly with Andrew Matthews. And how does life works? Because if you look at Malaysia, how do we, get out of what's shackling us and move forward? There's a lot of issues: middle income trap, the rising cost of stuff, and people just want things to work.
What we've believed for most of our history is that if we can just be successful, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
And particularly if we look at Asia and places like Singapore and Malaysia, where I'm travelling now, we have this idea that if I can just save the 10,000 ringgit, then I can start to be happy, or if I can just get a promotion, I can be happy, and so on. And it sounds perfectly logical, but the trouble is that as soon as we almost get to the 10,000 ringgit saved, we shift the goalposts and we say, well, maybe if I can make it 100,000 ringgit, then that would be a whole lot better. But the foundation for this new book, How Life Works, is really based in positive psychology. And it wasn't until the 1960s that we began to look at happy people and how they function and why they do better. And until then, we would look at people who were perhaps depressed or struggling, and we would say, how can we get those people back to average? And then this fellow, Martin Seligman, came along, and he said, why don't we study happy people and see how we can lift average people up to something above average? And so they began to study happy people over a long period of time, and what they discovered is that people who made more money were happy before they made the money. People who got promoted were happy before they got promoted. People who were in happy relationships were happy before they got into the happy relationships. And then they started doing experiments with people and found that they solved problems a whole lot better when they were happier. So in a sense, we need to turn around this whole idea that we've had for most of history, that if I can just be successful, I'll be happy. And say, how is it that I can be happier? And then understand that our performance is going to be a reflection of us finding more meaning and joy in our daily life.
People say that success is always a moving target. You set a bar here, when you reach it, of course you want to get more. And it works with life because things will just move and move and move. So however, I was in the symposium talking about measuring beyond gross domestic product, quantifying things that matter, that we thought and we were treating it like it was infinite, like air or forests, you know, we just use that to produce stuff, but those are the things that matters too, and that they should be quantified. And what's the point of being a millionaire? But we look around, there's no more trees, there's no more birds, the river are dark, and not clear water. So isn't success a moving target anyway? And wouldn't we be happy because yes, we reach a level of happiness, then we move up some more, and move up some more.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head perfectly. Success is a moving target, and that is why we need to look at it the other way around and say, how can I find joy and happiness and meaning in my daily life?
Okay.
And so then we start to say, well, what is it that happy people do, and how are they different from unhappy people? Mm-hmm. One of the things that happy people do is they consciously look for reasons to be grateful.
Okay.
Some happy people maybe just wake up in the morning and say, why am I happy that I woke up today? Mm-hmm.
That's enough for that person.
That's a very good start.
Mm-hmm.
Other people that and I know many people who will make a list at the end of the day and say, what was I happy about today? Mm-hmm. So we make it a conscious effort to say, yes, what is it that I'm happy about?
Mm-hmm. It's not what you know, it's what you feel. Okay, so I want to end this blog with that. Then once we are back, maybe get Andrew to go deeper into that. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people I know, they'll freak out if they don't know so many stuff. They like to be in control.
Yeah.
And I have them all around me, key people at that, and they need to know every minute little detail, and they will make sure that things will go to that minute little detail.
Yes.
But if it's how I feel,
yes,
I might not like for everything to be dictated. I might want to go with the flow. Then it is about how I feel, because if I feel great, I'll produce great stuff and great work, for example. So how do we marry these two polarities, for example? Because some might think it's a zero-sum game, mm-hmm, that I must only be within the circles that I know.
Yeah.
I don't want to go outside that because that's frightening and I'll make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I'll get your views on that right after this short break. Everybody wants to be great achievers, and maybe you need to go to the mines from the 23rd to the 25th. Andrew is here in KL because of that, and you'll be talking and even drawing cartoons live on stage just to illustrate some points. And cartoons are in this book also, how life works. You know, it's no secret how life works according to some reviews I've read of the book, but we tend to miss out on those stuff because we look at other stuff. But I'm going to go back to Andrew on the fact that if it's not what I know and it's what I feel, mm-hmm, but I need to be in control sometimes. And if I don't know every minute little detail, it makes me feel insecure. And I know others are very much more on to this than me, where everything must be clockwork, mm-hmm, and that goes against some other group of people who say that I just want to go with the flow. So when we look at how life works, mm-hmm, which way would you say the balance is?
I think we marry the two. One of the things that's fascinated me over the years, and I've been studying happy and successful people for 30 years now, is that so often the people who do extraordinarily well are not the people with the best qualifications. Mm-hmm. They're not the people who you may intellectually figure, mm-hmm, are the people who are going to just flourish. Yeah. But they are people who do their best, but then they understand there's a point where you just almost surrender. You say, mm-hmm, I've done everything I can, mm-hmm, and I realise that there are mysterious things about the way the world and the universe works. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if I can maintain my joy and happiness with what I'm doing, then at the most extraordinary times I will attract opportunities and people and circumstances which enable me to do things that I might never have imagined that I could do. And consistently I notice that some of the people who do the most extraordinary things reach those heights because of synchronicity, if you like. They just meet the right people at the right time. And you can't organise that, and you, more particularly getting to your earlier point, you can't control that.
Let's go a bit, I usually like to picture tangible stuff that my audience can imagine. But let's go a bit intangible on this. But if it's about what I feel, if I come to the office feeling energized, very positive, so the whole day might be positive, because that positivity will attract other positive stuff.
Yes.
But if I come with what I know, but what I feel is that this sucks, you know, I've been doing this for years, so that will be a magnet that attracts negative things.
Yes.
So can we start from there, for example, to say that sometimes it's okay to let go a bit, but you know, it's nice to be right all the time, but maybe being kind, being nice might be more important than being right. You know, telling somebody that you're wrong, but instead of telling somebody that you're wrong, that you know, maybe we can do it this way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I talk in how life works. I talk about the fact that it doesn't matter so often if we are right or if we're going to prove to other people that we are right. And your point about being kind, when people say, "I just want to be happy," I mean, when we're kind, when we're generous with those around us, you know, there's no faster way to start to feel happy and uplifted. And the point is, and I make this in How Life Works, is that we find what we look for. If you look for faults in your wife or your girlfriend or your job, or you look for faults in KL, you find them. And if you look for good things in your life and you start to think about, wow, how good is it to live in the country with the best food in the world, and so on, then you find those things. And so people who are negative say, I'm not negative, I'm just realistic. But the fact is, you find what you look for. And people who flourish, people who consistently succeed, have that habit of saying, what do I like about today? What do I like about my job? What do I like about my family?
But what about, when I was reading some of the chapters, what about people who actually they know all this? You know, not that I don't know that. Many people know that if they come happy to work or back home after work, you know, they'll create happiness. But somehow there's a barrier. That barrier might be fear. For example, if I don't put on this air that I'm in charge and I'm in control and I know everything, then people won't respect me. They won't obey me. They won't do the things that I ask them to do. You know, they play truant or whatever else. So I think fear is a big factor when we discuss anything about life. So I'll go for the last break, but once we are back, maybe you can take a leaf out of the chapter where there's, you know, you spoke about fear here. And how do we get past that? Because maybe many people know how to make life work, but they don't do it because of this obstacle. That we'll discuss after this break. How do you think life works? If you don't know, get this book. Go to the mines. There's a National Achievers Congress from the 23rd to the 25th. Andrew will be there. You'll be taking questions. You'll be signing books. This is his 10th book, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right. Millions of copies already been sold. All his 10 books. And you'll be lucky if you get to spend even 2 minutes with him, because I think it'll change your life. But they have to get past this fear that if I read this book and, you know, I follow it through and through, what if I change the things I'm so used to? What happens? Would I be like a kite, you know, with broken strings that's flying aimlessly because I've left my comfort zone? I'm not well versed with the new areas. But some would say that's the whole point about life. You go through it, navigating life. So,
you know, my experience is very often that people will read my books, and in particular How Life Works, and say, you know, I know so much of this stuff. It's very often not that we need new information. We just need to be reminded about things we already know. We need to be reminded, for example, that when we're too attached to something, whether it's too attached to making an impression, or too attached to getting a promotion, or too attached to impressing a girl or something like that, it never works. We need to be reminded that, for example, happiness is not an accident. It's a decision that we make on a daily basis. And you know, perhaps we need to be reminded that our beliefs are so important, and if we're prepared to let go of our beliefs, then it's not really the facts that are deciding whether or not we're successful. It's what we believe is true. So in many ways, I don't think How Life Works would really threaten or take a reader into very strange territory. It's very often that
familiar ground.
Yeah, it's just that, you know, we say, I know those things. I know that when I can, you know, focus on good things in my life, then I go to work with more energy, I solve problems more easily, I know that people respond to me, and I know that somehow magically good things happen for me the better that I feel.
A lot of people, you know, they work in corporations. You have gone to many corporations to talk about this. Shell, McDonald's, Walmart, Hewlett-Packard, Lenovo, Toshiba, Motorola and stuff. And that working class mentality, you know, executives or otherwise, I'm chasing, like you said just now, the next promotion, the next big pay, bonuses. But do you feel that that's one of the main bane of the 21st century rat race, where we define our happiness more often than not with monetary value?
Yeah, we tend to. But then we come across people who have achieved the monetary value, and they're not so happy, and sometimes they're not the kind of people that we would want to be ourselves. And that can be when we say, hey, maybe there's other things about developing character or developing my relationships with my family that are going to be much more significant. So, you know, certainly many of us start out thinking that money is going to do it, and that's where we began at the beginning tonight, thinking that, you know, I'll make the money and then I'll tack happiness onto it at some point. But happiness is not an optional extra. It is something that needs to be the foundation for everything we do. And I guess that is what I'm going to be sharing at the National Achievers Congress at the Mines, that happiness is your foundation. And we need to reverse that idea that we can just somehow, at some point, after we've made the money, tack the happiness on.
Can we have both at the same time? You know, the concept of being a philanthropist. It's after you make your billion that you go around the world and wanting to help people. But the question in the 21st century is, why can't we help people while we're trying to get that billion? You know, why do we have, you know, we might not get to help people when it kills us so much that by the time we get our first billion, then we might not be in a healthy position, for example, to help others. So that's one school of thought on that. The other one is, you know, there's this thing called social enterprises right now. As you become an entrepreneur, what you decide to do, you are already engaging society, you're already helping people. The product services that you put out are services and products that help, you know, empower others, not just selling stuff because I want to make money, for example. Are you seeing that more and more?
Absolutely. The most successful corporations have that sense of responsibility. And I mean, we look at someone like Richard Branson. I mean, he was happy before he made his billions. I mean, he's a perfect example.
So if people in Malaysia come to you at the mines and say, you know, Andrew, I'm not happy, how do I become happy? But that's a very big question. So where do you start to answer things like that?
Well, I'll tell you a little story. I was at Bangsa Village Shopping Centre in December, And a fellow came up to me and he said, "Are you Andrew Matthews?" Excuse me.
He actually recognized you.
Interestingly, he recognised me from a photograph on the back of my first book, Being Happy, when I was 27. So he said, I read Being Happy when I was, he said, I'm from Aceh. He said, I read Being Happy when I was in university. And he said, I was so poor that he said, I didn't own a shirt. I had a pair of trousers and my girlfriend used to loan me her shirts. So he said, when I read your book, Being Happy, I started to realise that happiness is really a decision that I can make. And I started to focus on the good things in my life, and I started to make lists of what I wanted to achieve with my life. He said at that stage I was so broke that very often I need to have a... Can we...
Go ahead. I'd just like to remind the audience that you can go to the Mines. The National Achievers Congress will be from 23rd to 25th. Andrew will be there, and he'll be, drawing his cartoon and giving exemplary stories. I think he has so many stories. But so, what happened to the Achenese?
So, yeah, he had no money to eat. He had no shirt. His girlfriend used to loan him shirts. He said, I'm now the Asian Development Manager for an international corporation.
Cool.
He said, my goals were that I would have a wife, 2 children, they would go to the best schools, I would drive a luxury car. He said, today I have all that. And he said, your book showed me that if I changed my attitude, then my life would change.
That's exactly what we want people to go and see you at the Mines, and you also can do it. Thank you so much, Andrew. Terima kasih banyak kepada anda telah menonton. Hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri pada pelbagai platform yang Astro Awani ada, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter dan sebagainya, dan buat turun aplikasi Mudalih supaya anda boleh menonton Astro Awani secara langsung di gadget Mudalih anda. Sekian, selamat malam. Terima kasih, jumpa lagi. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.